So let me give you maybe 2 words of my bio. So I've been working with Accenture for over 30 years only in the industrial space. So automotive, industrial equipment, infrastructure, transportation. Working with clients to manage the change and improve their business performance. I've got a second role within Accenture. I lead one of our verticals, a consulting practice focused on connected product lifecycle services. And this is where I tie into Industry X.0, which is an initiative that I also lead globally for Accenture. And it's all about the digital transformation of the industry, not only focusing on manufacturing, but focusing on the broader enterprise, the interaction with customers, but also the products. And I'll spend a bit of time on this specific topic. What I'm going to share with you comes from 3 different sources. Research that we have done at Accenture, work that we have done in collaboration with the World Economic Forum for Davos 15 and 16 and 17, around the digital transformation of industries, and most importantly, work that we have done with our clients. The focus is not going to be on the why, it's going to be on the how to make happen, pragmatic use cases on how to implement these technologies, and most importantly, get the value out of it. To be fair, my only objective here is that when you leave San Diego tomorrow, that you take just a couple of the ideas that I will have shared here, and you see how you can implement that in your businesses and the value they bring. Right. That you will, I'll put the bottle somewhere, sorry. This you will have seen. I mean, it is the pervasiveness of technology which creates the context of this change. Sensors, APIs, data and products at commodity level prices really triggers the fact that our products are becoming more and more intelligent. It's all about platform and data that optimize, because they really allow to define data-driven services, software-driven services around the product. And we'll see that this is where the value comes from, the services around the product. The third thing is around ecosystems and services. That is what drives the value. What we have seen with Industry 4.0 is just the beginning of the transformation, hence the X.0. And there's more and more technology waves coming with 5G, with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, with generative designs. There's more to come. And it's really the combinatorial effect of all these technologies that is setting the change and transforming industrial beyond recognition. So this is just the beginning, is the key message. What's really at the core of the change is smart and connected products. And this is what is driving the transformation of industrial companies. Disruption will come from the combination of smart products, services, and experiences. And it's bringing the 3 together that will allow industrial companies to create new business models and will really transform the existing way of doing business. I honestly believe that in a few years' time, products as we know them are going to be completely different. And the mere definition of product is going to be shattered. We're moving to living products, and maybe a term that you have heard more and more around living services, living products. Truly believe that this will be the case. The products is going to be a combination of, as always, hardware, but hardware is just going to be the mere container of basic features. We'll then have software embedded, so software in and outside of the products. Software is going to become the connective tissue of value creation. This is where the value will come from. Not the hardware, but the software. And the software will also allow a continuous reconfiguration of your product, extending the lifetime of your product, the value of the product, the experience of the product you are using. And the third component is the user interface. And that user interface will be adaptive, real-time, context-based. Listening to the presentation of Novartis, and we are working with clients in this space. You're in the shop floor. Paul comes to the station. The machine recognizes Paul. The machine knows Paul's strengths and weaknesses. The machine will adapt, both from a user interface, but also on the way it augments Paul's areas of development. This is how the user interface will be adaptive to the worker, to the user, in a specific context. This may sound science fiction. We have one of our clients, automotive manufacturer, that is piloting these types of machine and working with the machine manufacturer to make this one of the standard services they can provide to their clients. Products. And products in the very large and broad sense of the definition. This will apply to pumps, may they be in ships, in generators. It'll apply to industrial machinery, the example I just gave, to cars. So all of the products as we know them, industrial products, will be reinvented or transformed in a few years. Working with the World Economic Forum about 2 years ago, we've identified 4 stages of evolution of Industry X.0 or the industrial Internet of Things. Starts focusing, and when you look at it, the 4 stages, the near term is very much incremental. It's all about operational efficiencies, better utilization of assets, reducing cost of operations, improving workers' productivity and safety. The second step is around new products and services and embedding software inside your products, but also developing services, software-driven, around your legacy product portfolio. Start seeing a pay-per-use commercial models versus I buy and I maintain. And then you move into something which is more transformative, the outcome-based economy, where it's on a pay-per-outcome basis versus pay-per-use, where products are truly more and more virtual and software, where ecosystems and platforms become the norm, where intelligent products move into intelligent systems, and then the ultimate stage being the pull economy. Not yet, but will come at one point in time. At the bottom part of the chart, different logos, because these clients or these companies are experimenting these different stages. Take Michelin, for example, so tire manufacturer. They've launched their own digital service business, which is known as Tire as a Service. So they're in the new products and services space. They sell the tire per the kilometer, per the usage. And they've got different offerings depending on whether you've got a truck, a passenger car, or a school bus, you're in India, in the US, or in China. But they're already on a tire as a service basis, not selling their own tires, selling Michelin tires, but tires of competition. They're experimenting FE-Fuel, pay per outcome. They commit on the fuel savings of your fleet of trucks. And they only get paid on the outcome. If you've saved X liters per 1,000 kilometers. They're testing this in the market. So already in the trying out the outcome economy. Bosch Siemens Home Appliances, what products? They've taken publicly the commitment to make all their products smart and connected by 2018, next year. And there's many, Tesla, which is a well-known example in the service product and service hybrid. So many companies, industrial companies, are progressively going through this evolution. This transformation, and I'm sure you're convinced of this, will disrupt established players. And it'll blur industry lines. Let's just take, for a few minutes, what's happening in the automotive space. I mean, with the changing customer demand moving to having access, usage versus ownership, mobility services, this is progressively impacting the automotive industry. And we're seeing the emergence of mobility service providers, as well as infrastructure service providers. And progressively, these two categories will become more and more powerful. And they will change the role and the business models of the OEMs. The OEMs will focus on three things: contract manufacturing for the MSPs, for the mobility service providers. They will build the cars to the specifications of the MSPs and define the services. They'll go into white label. And they will develop branded devices, and I don't use the word car anymore, branded devices, the car and the services, which they will market directly to customers. But that is a fundamental shift in the role and the business models today. The MSPs will have access to the customers directly. Network effect. What will happen? A shift in the value, of course, moving from the incumbents to the new entrants. Three things. With the emergence of the sharing economy and autonomous vehicles, there will mechanically be a decrease in the number of cars needed. Current studies show that one autonomous car can replace about 7 cars used in a traditional way. 1 to 7. Secondly, the analysts are predicting that while car sales will continue to grow, of course, there is a peak in 2019, 2020, and we will see progressively this growth becoming slower and slower. But what is more important is what you see on the right-hand side of the chart. While the overall pool of value will continue to grow from 330 to 545, the split of value between the different players is very different. OEMs, quite stable in either dollars or euro value, means not growing. Tier 1 suppliers, heavily impacted, and you see their pool of value almost divided by 2. This is the industry that will get hit the hardest. And then you look at the MSPs, the mobility service providers, almost 0 in 2025, 220 in 2030. They get the big chunk of the value. Now, out of this 220, you could say that 50% will be from mobility service providers issued from the OEMs. So the OEMs do get a bit of the value back by being in this business. But clearly a disruptive shift of the value between established players. Now, society also will get a lot of value out of this. And this also leverages one of the studies done with the World Economic Forum and presented in 2016. But what you do see on this chart is that value for society and value for the enterprise rarely meet. There is no true North Star in this transformation. Completely disalignment between the industry and society. An example, telematics. Telematics will create, so always big numbers, about 2 billion of incremental value, net value, for the automotive. And I use net value because there'll be ups and downs. Increased values for the OEMs and their aftermarket services, increased value for the telematics service providers, a destruction of value for dealerships and other service providers. Net, +2. Society, 300 billion of incremental value. Reduction in the number of deaths, reduction of CO2, and so forth. The value is for society, not for the industry. There's one industry, though, that will get some benefits, insurance and banking, +15 billion. So you see here that society is pushing for these technologies which do not benefit the industry. So the question here is not why should we do this, because it's happening, but how to make it happen. And how to make it happen from two perspectives. What I would call below the line and above the line. So below the line is how do you make it happen to drive operational efficiencies in your enterprise, in manufacturing, but not only, in after sales, in engineering, in HR, because IoT is not only for manufacturing. Robotics in HR, in all the business support functions, will drive new levels of efficiencies. So it's across the whole enterprise. And when you focus on this below the line, that generates money, savings, which you can then invest to grow your core business, but also grow the new, above the line. And so your digital strategy should always focus on both sides, below and above the line. So, working with our clients, we've identified, and when I say we, it is collectively, Accenture, our clients, and also the World Economic Forum, 6 critical capabilities. We call them no regrets, because whatever happens, whatever the future, which is uncertain, will be, there's 6 things that are critical and will be of use. I'll cover them very quickly. The first one is all around the product development cycle and a unified life cycle. Synchronizing hardware development, software development, user interface, connectivity, data, versus going by silos. It is a unified PLM capability, recognizing that each of these components have different clock speeds. So how do you synchronize this? The second one is software. And many industrial companies, mid-size especially, deep at the heart of industrial machinery, do not have a lot of software capabilities. But we know this is where the values is going to come from. And it's software in the machines, embedded, but it's always software around the machine to develop these new services. Software is key. Agile and closed-loop manufacturing, which was one of the topics in this in a previous presentation, is making sure that the data, you close the loop in order for management, but also for the worker. You close the loop between manufacturing and after-sales and engineering. You close the loop with the product and the product information. The fourth one is around analytics, data, an obvious one. But to be fair, I believe in what I've seen with many of our industrial clients, this is the key one, to get it right and to leverage and to test. As a service, and moving away from sell, maintain, to an OPEX-type commercial model. which has implications around services and software, but also cloud technology. And then the last one is ecosystem. There is not one company in the world that can have all of the capabilities and own the whole digital value. You need to work with partners, with competitors, with clients, with suppliers. Leverage their innovation capability. Leverage what startups are doing. Why do something internally when you can have access to it? And ecosystems are dynamic, because as customer demand changes, you'll need to assemble different services coming from the outside. One recommendation is, what we recommend to most of our clients is to try out these different capabilities individually and then combine them, because that is where the multiplying benefit comes into play. Very important. Capabilities, the trajectory, how to make this happen. Here are 4 simple steps, but the complexity comes into play that these steps need to be done in parallel. The first one is unlocking the value in the enterprise, to be able to fund the transformation. Unlocking the value in manufacturing, in engineering, getting to the next level of operational efficiency. But it's also exploiting the legacy data that you have. And we'll come maybe to one of the examples, one of our industrial clients, just exploiting the installed base data they have. They've been able to improve their pull-through revenues by 20 to 25%, just exploiting the data that they had, which they were not doing in the past. So unlocking the value, shaping your product agenda, making your high-potential products smart and connected, including your customers in the product development design process, thinking about your next generation of products, the hardware, the software, and the user interface. It's all about pivoting your innovation and growth agenda, and I'll come back to this one, and then building the right and experimenting the right business capabilities, the 6 no regrets. A few things to be done and laid out in time. One thing that will not change is that innovation will continue to be very critical, but innovating in a different way. I mean, the well-trodden path to innovation, which was pushing out new products features, that doesn't work anymore. And to be able to succeed in the new, it's not about product push, as most of you know. It is about understanding the why behind the buy and addressing the experience and the expectations of your customers from an end-to-end perspective. What we found in research that we've done across multiple industries, it was a global piece of research, was that what we call the brilliant innovators, and I'll come to that, had 3 new capabilities, 3 new approaches to innovation. The first one, it's understanding your customer. Customer insight-driven innovation, leveraging crowdsourcing, including your customers in your product development process. Ethnographic research, understanding the why behind the buy is critical. The second one was around thinking not from a product perspective, but from a solution, being solution-centric. What is the outcome I'm trying to solve? What is the solution that I should bring to my client versus the product feature? And the third one was around pivotal leadership and making sure that in your R&D, engineering, marketing, business development capabilities, functions, you have these inspirational leaders that understand this change and can make it and diffuse it across the organization. For the first time, we've been able to find that there's a correlation, and a pretty strong one to be honest, between these 3 capabilities and the financial performance of what we call the brilliant innovators. And they have yielded, I think it's here, 5 to 7% higher return net revenues. And this applies only for industrial, automotive and industrial equipment. The data is available for all of the industries. But very specifically for industrial companies, 5 to 7 higher returns and an impact on the operating income of between 250 and 350 basis points. Quite significant. And it was not at throwing more money in R&D, it was focusing on the how to use that money and the approaches. So as mentioned, there's a need to unlock the value, to fund the transformation. There is immense pools of values trapped in our companies. And digital can help us unlock that value. Analytics, machine to machine, artificial intelligence. What this research has shown is that in the different industrial segments, 70 to 80% of the value is in interacting with the customer and locked and trapped in operations, supply chain, manufacturing, and R&D. The other 20% is around new business models, but is longer term. So there's money there to be unlocked. And if we are able to unlock this money, we'll be able to fund the transformation. One thing that came out also out of the research is that business as usual, so the little red bars, is not an option, to be fair. Therefore, it is how do you make it happen and how do you unlock some of the value that's trapped in the enterprise. And not only in manufacturing, much broader than that. Many of the segments of our clients have started the rotation to the new journey. 2 facts I'd like to share. Industrial, lagging behind consumer, retail, electronics, and high tech. And when you look at industrial, it's really the OEMs, automotive OEMs, that are leading the pack. And progressively, what they are doing is permeating the industrial value chain, moving to the tier 1 suppliers, going into more the industrial manufacturers. But there's still a lot to do in these segments. Well, as I only have 30 seconds, I'd just like to share a few examples. This one is from an Italian industrial machinery manufacturer. I find it very interesting because they're only $700 million in terms of net revenues. But they've embarked on a journey to connect and smarten 40% of their installed base, so about 20,000 pieces of equipment. And out of this, and they're almost partly there, they will significantly increase their revenues in terms of services. They have been able to close the loop with engineering and enhance the design of their future machines. And they've increased the level of service. And the increase in revenues is not single digit, it is double digit, and it has a 2 and a 3 in front. Quite significant. Second example is an electrical equipment manufacturer. And here the simple idea is, how do I develop digital services around my existing portfolio of products? 3 things I'd like you to remember here. What they've done is leverage analytics and IoT to develop services around their pieces of equipment. They have put a structured approach, as you can see. As this one is a French base, it's very structured, but it works. It opens up to the rest of the world an open innovation program, working with startups. And this is a $100 billion company trying to work with very agile startups. But they have seen that innovation can come from the outside. And the financial implications, increased revenues, pull-through revenues, impact on the bottom line, which is between 100 and 150 million each year of incremental operating income. Not quite insignificant. Last example, and just to close, is around intelligent demand sensing. And to one of the earlier presenters, we have data. We have tons of data around our installed base. And it is how you use this data to drive insights in terms of additional services you can provide to your clients, on how you can anticipate that the piece of equipment I have at my client will probably fail in a while, and if I went there to propose the replacement of this piece of part, I will increase the service level of my client, the customer satisfaction of my client. I will also reduce the downtime for my client, and I could have another discussion around the warranty cost. They are targeting, and the first step is using your legacy data. The second step is using data that you collect directly from the machine. But the key message here is you've got a wealth of data that you can explore, drill, curate, and get rich insight. They're expecting 20%, it is a 15 to 20% increase in services around their installed base by exploiting the data that they currently have. And I'm happy to report that they are on the way to achieving that 50 to 20%. New revenues goes directly to the bottom line, and you enhance your customer relationship. So these are just a few examples, maybe business models, not sure, but of services and ways of focusing both on your top line while improving the bottom line. So as I just have maybe 10 seconds left, I'd like to do a bit of advertising, if you allow me. So I am publishing a book called Industry X.0 in May, and you'll find some of these stories in this book and much more, but I think the book is all around how to make this happen. So it's not about the why, it's not a strategy book, it's very hands-on on what are the first steps, what are the first proof of concepts, how do I engage with an ecosystem partner, how do I manage an ecosystem of partners, what are the implications on engineering and manufacturing created by connected products. So a few simple things. I hope you'll enjoy it if you want to have access to it. But took me and a team a long time to write, so I thought I'd just take a few minutes to position it. Thank you.